Hey guys, Daniel here, and today I'm going to be showing you how to evaluate a real estate deal to see if it's actually a good deal or not, on the fly with as little information as possible. Alright, so I've been looking at deals for probably 2 or 3 years now. I bought my first deal in October 2020, and I'm constantly looking at deals even now, right? So once you look at a lot of deals, you have to figure out, and even when you're starting out, you definitely have to figure out a way to quickly and easily estimate if this is a good deal or not, right? And there's rules out there like the 1% rule, 2% rule, whatever rules and that the people use to try to help them evaluate deals. But if you really want to do, and after a while you get, a good feel for it, it becomes a lot easier. You can kind of just know, when something's going to work, when it's not. But today I'm going to give you some fixed numbers to work with when you're evaluating a deal, because I would have loved these. If I would have started this, would have definitely saved me a lot of time, effort, energy if I would just kind of known some simple, easy metrics to use as benchmarks for evaluating if a deal is worth pursuing and researching or not, and if I should move on to something else. Okay, so number one, and this is gonna help make the whole rest of the process super easy and provide you with a good framework for any future deals to use, is go ahead and go onto the App Store and get the Rental Property Calculator app by Chandler David Smith. He's a fellow YouTuber and a real estate investor, but he actually came up with an app that it's super easy to use. You can just punch in all the numbers I'm going to tell you, and you can spit out the cash-on-cash return and all that good stuff, and all the metrics you need. And you just fill it in. You can easily see if this is going to be a good deal or not. The second thing you're going to need to do is get the purchase price of the property. So this would be pretty easy. If it's on market deal, then you can simply just take it off of the deal and then punch it into the calculator. Now, you can also reverse engineer this if you need to offer more or less to make the deal work for you. You can reverse engineer it from the metrics I'm going to give you now. So thirdly, you're going to need to know the market rents for your area for whatever property you're looking for. So, for example, in my town, if I bought a 3-bedroom house, 2-bath, I could probably reasonably rent that for, about $1,700, right? Maybe $1,800, but you want to try to be conservative in these things. So if it goes wrong, you're hedged for your margin of error, right? So I would say $1,700 for my area is a good example. So I fill that in the box of my rental property calculator, and then we go on to the next thing. Okay, so number 4 is you need to know the down payment of your loan. Now, most common down payments are going to be like 5%, 20%, and probably 25% are probably your most common money down options, right? So figure out whatever that is for you and punch that in there. I typically use 20% for most of my deals, even if I'm going to put lower, like 5% down, just because I want to make sure the deal works at a more money down than less money down, because when you put very little money down, you can get very high cash-on-cash returns, but that doesn't necessarily make it a super great deal because there's some intrinsic maintenance and costs associated with real estate. So I typically put 20% in as my benchmark estimate. The next thing you'll need is the costs to make rent ready. So this could be renovations, this could be anything, any small fixes or anything like that you're going to have to do to the property, any cleanings, anything like that to make it to where somebody can rent it and move in. So for these, I would talk to your contractor or your cleaning professional or anything like that to get those estimates. And you want to try to estimate, on the conservative higher side for these costs, because remember, you're trying to find a good deal and you don't want to be surprised with any unforeseen expenses if at all possible. Next, we have closing costs. So your closing costs, I typically estimate in my area for $200,000 house is probably going to cost about $5,000. Now, this will be different for every area. I would talk to your local real estate agent, and they can usually help you out and give you a very good estimate as to what your closing costs would be, or talk to your loan officer, as they can usually give you an actual closing cost worksheet well before you close on your property. Next thing you need to know is any utilities you have to pay. Now, most properties in my area, the tenants actually pay their utilities, so this isn't a factor, but in some places I know of certain properties, the older ones that have common meters and things, where the landlord actually pays the utilities, so you need to make sure to factor that in. The next item is your vacancy, and I always estimate vacancy at 6%. This is actually a tip I got from Chandler David Smith, but that is actually quite a long time. That's 21 days. I know reasonably that I could definitely fill a property well before that if all was well. So you can use whatever numbers you want. I'd use 6% anyway, just to be conservative. If something unforeseen happened, you can have that number. It also helps negotiation with the party. If they, for whatever reason, you can't agree on prices, you can just show them, hey, like, these are my costs, this is the numbers I have to make it work, let's come to an agreement. And that can usually help the negotiations. So some other expenses that you need to factor in is actually maintenance. So again, I estimate about 6% of the rents for maintenance. And this encompasses all of your maintenance, like, your capital expenditures, like your large items, like your roofs and your AC and everything, as well as everything else that just happens day to day. And this should give you, a pretty good estimate of what these things will cost over the life of the property if you're just estimating about that much to put away for maintenance. Okay, the other thing you can also budget for is management expenses. Now, I typically don't actually budget for this because the profit margins for a property, I'm looking to get a 12% cash on cash return for my properties. So, most maintenance or management places are going to charge you about 8 to 12, about 10%. So, that's pretty much going to eliminate all of your profits if you go with a management company. And I personally plan to self-manage most of my real estate and for many years until a point where probably the properties have appreciated and the rents have gone up so much that it may be affordable to actually hire a management company. But I don't usually budget for that because I don't have any plans to. And honestly, in this market, it's very difficult to find a property worthwhile with the properties if you were to factor in that expense. Okay guys, then the next thing you need to account for is the interest rate on your loan. This will affect your monthly payment, and you can get that information from your loan officer. So the last two things are taxes and insurance. So you can get the insurance quote by just calling up an insurance agent and telling them the property you're looking at, and they can give you a super accurate quote on what the insurance is going to cost for that property. I usually estimate about $100 in my area for your average 3-bed, 2-bed bath house. The next thing you need to look up is your taxes. Now, all your tax information can be gotten from the county website where the property is located, and it should be accurate up until the last year. It should be pretty accurate for your estimates. Okay guys, so now you're ready. You can actually punch the calculate button and you can now calculate the return on investment of your property. So I apologize to run the numbers property. So some metrics I like to look for personally when evaluating any rental property is I'm looking for a 12% cash on cash return. Now, cash on cash is the cash that I'm actually going to receive profit after all expenses are paid that I can put in my pocket. And then there's other benefits, of course, that you'll see on this app, like some other incomes as well. So the other thing that I'm looking for is a minimum $500 a month in cash flow because, it's one thing to get 12% cash on cash, but, if that 12% is not really much money, it may not be worth it for you to actually, manage that property. And, other people could have lower thresholds. For me, and where I'm in my investing career, I'm trying to get at least a $500 minimum cash on cash return every single month. So that's a good benchmark to follow as well if for whatever reason, your actual amount of cash per year is pretty low. So this is also going to show you your cap rate and your debt service, and also your principal pay down. So that's another benefit from owning real estate is every time you pay the mortgage, you're actually paying a portion of that onto the principal of the loan. So that's actually building equity in your property, which you can then borrow from, or you can sell the property or eventually pay it off and not have a mortgage anymore. But that's also an additional bonus you're getting every single month. So that's factored in. All right guys, so that's what you do. Punch in the numbers and the purchase price and everything like that, and try to get a 12% cash on cash return at least. And then if you can, a minimum $500 a month in cash flow from the property. Now, if it's not adding up, if it's too low, then you're paying too much, or your rents are too low, or one of those, or your expenses are too high. So typically the biggest thing you're going to be able to affect with those numbers is the purchase price. And so you need to buy the property for cheaper, and this is how you can actually get to a number that makes the numbers work. And especially guys in this market, it is super difficult to buy any kind of listed property, and even unlisted properties. Most people know what their properties are worth, and it's really not an environment where you can be very greedy or try to get a property for well under market value unless it's a really good deal for some reason. So you probably just want to get to an offer amount where the numbers work for you, even if it's higher than the asking price, and you want to offer that straight away because if you don't do it, somebody else is going to get the offer and you're going to do nothing. So there's my advice, guys. If you liked the video, hit the like button down below, click subscribe for more, and I will see you in the next chapter.